Welcome to Guided by Third Wheel, the podcast. My name is Amber Ireland, and I'm here with my co-host, Jill Bucaro. Let's get started.
Hey everybody, and welcome back to Guided by Third Wheel. Today, Amber and I decided we were going to talk about the phenomenon, I guess we'll call it, of the grass is always greener. The grass always feels greener on the other side. This energy of what I might call like discontent, where forever and ever you're like, I want to be in a relationship, I want to be in a relationship, I want to be in a relationship. And then you're in the relationship and you're like, this feels suffocating. I want to be able to go out with my friends. Or I think about it, for me sometimes, all I want is a weekend where I don't have any obligations and I can just stay home in my pajamas and snuggle with itty bitty my cat and do my own thing. And then I get that weekend and I'm like, why does nobody love me? Why do I have no friends? Yeah. Why am I alone forever?
Right.
This kind of phenomenon of we wish for something, we get it, and then maybe we wish for what we had before, or it's not good enough and we still want something better. And I think a lot of us struggle with this at some level, right? I know women that forever they're like, I want kids, I want babies, I want to be a mom, da 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 da. And then they have kids and babies and there's moments of like, my God, I just wish I had a quiet, clean house. What have I done? Exactly. So, Amber, why do you think we do this as humans? Heavy question this Sunday morning.
I don't think we purposely do it, but I think sometimes we look externally at what other people have and we think that we want that. That is going to fit into our life the same way it is fitting into their life.
Ooh,
right?
Okay.
And so when we look at that, we're like, oh, I want that. And a lot of times we can have it. Even things that aren't good for us or of our highest good, we can create. You can create whatever it is you are thinking about.
Oh, for sure.
Right?
Yes.
And so you create this thing. And maybe all along, the whole time you're trying to create it, you're getting these red flags. Oh, this might not be. And you're like, nope, that over there, that person, the way they are behaving in their life, that is the goal. Right?
Yep.
And so you keep going and you get there. And always the going, always the manifesting, always the creating feels good.
Yes.
Right?
The doing,
like,
the busy.
Right. Like I'm getting there. Then when we get there, there's a stillness that happens. And we are not comfortable in that stillness because we've spent all this time doing to get it. And also, if you spent a lot of time doing to get something that was not in alignment with you, you're going to get there, you're going to sit with it for a minute and be like, oh shit, ew. And then you're going to have to figure out what is happening and why don't I like this? And so what we end up doing, instead of sitting with that and saying, why does this feel uncomfortable? Is this uncomfortable, A, because now I'm still and I'm not running after this goal anymore?
Yeah.
Or B, because this is out of alignment for me. Instead of sitting with that, we just know something is wrong. So we're like, well, obviously I just need more.
Or different. Or something else. Yes.
Yeah. Well, I got to this place, so now I need to get to this place. And so we go back on that chasing journey, which feels good, again, because we are chasing something else.
Yes. That's so true. And I definitely think there's some of us that I call it the striving, where we love the high of the strive, right? Mm-hmm. When we are hustling, when we are making incremental progress towards goals, we're not quite there, but it's in sight and we can see that we've been getting there. Right. That feels really, really good.
It's the checklist, right? I got to check the things off the list. I got to move the things off the list.
You're right. It's the checklist, right?
Mm-hmm.
You're moving, you're grooving. And I think there are many of us, particularly those of us that like to be busy little bees, that like the strive, the achievers, the workers, whatever name you want to give us, that there is so much comfort in the striving, but discomfort in the stillness.
It's when the checklist is done and there's nothing else to check off. And you're like, well, what the fuck am I supposed to do now with this?
Because there's this, who am I if I am not producing, if I am not doing things? Right.
And sometimes the grass is greener does come from misalignment.
Yes.
But I also think sometimes the grass is greener comes from the fact that we won't sit in what we've created for ourselves. We won't sit in that and make the checklist be that I'm just going to be grateful for this and see how it feels. And that leads to wanting more things. I need to get something different. I need to change the way that this is. This piece isn't quite perfect. Let me go after that. And that's not to say that we shouldn't strive for up leveling and better for ourselves and all of that. But when you have chosen a goal and you get there and you never feel like that is enough, then now we need to take a step back and say, why do I always feel like this isn't enough? Is it misalignment? Am I chasing somebody else's dream?
Consistently, over and over again.
Or am I just not really willing to sit and be still in what I have?
Yes. You could have the same feeling for two different reasons. It's funny, it reminds me of a couple years ago. Have you ever seen the musical Hamilton?
No.
Oh, well, number one, you need to see Hamilton. It's really good. And I think a lot of people have. Hamilton was very popular, but it still is very exciting. So there is a song in Hamilton where they talk about Alexander Hamilton himself and then his sister-in-law. Both have like a similar, what I would say, like energy about them. Mm-hmm. And they sing a song about it. And the song is essentially, it says, I will never be satisfied. One, it's a beautiful song. It's a powerful song. And I remember I looked at my cousin, my best friend, afterwards. We looked at each other and we're like, oh my God, that song is us. Because I do think there is a personality type in which it is nearly impossible for you to be satisfied. Mm-hmm. And a huge area of growth, area that I've been working on, is how to sit back and soak in a space of satisfaction, right? Mm-hmm. In a space of, I think sometimes we call that gratitude, mm-hmm. right? Of being, look where I am, look at what I've accomplished. Right. Because it is just so easy for me, and it probably has to do with family of origin, temperament, and personality, where it's never enough. It's never enough. It's never enough. I got it, and I don't even take 1 millisecond to be like, yay, look what I got. Because I'm like, well, I don't have this, and I could be doing this, and da-da-da-da-da. I had this moment just yesterday. I've been sick the last couple days, and I've been just feeling really stressed. We have a lot of really cool things going for Third Wheel right now that just require a little bit more work than normal. We're like wrapping up year end, all of this kind of stuff is happening, and I've been stomping around like, oh, I'm so busy, I'm so stressed, why I can't even be sick because I have so much to do, just my normal terrible negative self-talk. And I sat there and I was looking at our year-end finances. I was like in our spreadsheet to track our expenses and receipts mm-hmm. for 2025 for Third Wheel, and I started doing it, and I thought, oh my gosh, in this first week of 2025, which we haven't even been in 2025 a whole week when we're recording this podcast, with invoicing and people purchasing, we brought in more money, and I'm just telling you this now, Amber, this first week in 2025 than we did in all of 2018, all of 2019, all of 2020, mm-hmm. and all of 2021. Mm-hmm. Not combined, but separate, right? And I just thought, like, Jill, shut the fuck up for 1 second. Just, God, stop. Because you could have never even dreamed 4 or 5 years ago the success that your little baby business would be having right mm-hmm. now. Right. And thankfully, I've done enough work where I could shut the fuck up for, not long, let's, 15 or 20 minutes to just like appreciate that, mm-hmm. And I think sometimes when we're getting irritated with our partners or getting frustrated at our job or thinking, Jesus Christ, I do not want to spend another night out with these same friends, are we always focusing on that negative, or are we taking a moment to think, these are things I wished for X many years ago? Mm-hmm. And that although the grass does seem a little bit greener in the land where the kitchen is always clean, it's pretty green right here too.
Right. Yeah. Going back and thinking about the you of 5 years ago, and what was that person wishing for? What was that person striving for? What was that person thinking that their life was going to look like, or wanted their life to look like, or could even have dreamed that their life was going to look like? And oftentimes we find that where we are now is a place that we really wanted to be. Yes. And I know early on in my life, there were times where I probably would have looked back 5 years and I would have said, I don't want to be where I am right now. And I look back 5 years and I'm like, damn, I created this. And having to reflect on that. So it's not always you look back and you're like, oh, I manifested this life of my dreams.
No.
And sometimes you look back and you're like, I see where I pivoted wrong, and I just kept going, and I doubled down, and I stayed in this for too long, and that's why I am where I am. But I think that reflection is good because you can be grateful for a whole host of things. Just the fact that you can look back 5 years and say, oh, this is where I am now. What I wanted, really, this is not it. I am not in, this is, doesn't feel like it's in alignment. Yes. I made it. to where I said I wanted to be, but it is not in alignment. And then that's a learning opportunity to say, okay, where do I need to pivot now? Where do I want to be in the next 5 years? And that's part of that grass is greener, right? We can either continue to strive toward what's out of alignment for us and other people tell us is the right thing, or we can follow our inner knowing, our inner light, instead of reflecting everyone else's light and go toward what we want, so that when we do look back, we can be like, damn, those were all the things I said I wanted. And here they are.
And here they are, and maybe I should take a moment to reflect. I'm glad you said that, because one of my next questions for you on this topic was going to be, what is the litmus test? How do we determine, I'm feeling some discomfort, right? Mm-hmm. I'm wishing for things I don't have.
Right.
And, and we've talked about this could be one, because you need to develop the skills to be able to sit in the stillness, sit in the gratitude, understand that right now life is pretty beautiful, even though it's not perfect, that whole kind of space. Mm-hmm. Or we thought you could be having that kind of discomfort because there are some things that are out of alignment. Mm-hmm. And my question for you was going to be, how do you determine which one it is? Because we've talked about this in podcasts before. I feel uncomfortable. Do I feel uncomfortable because this is a good thing, or do I feel uncomfortable because this is a bad thing? Right. Mm-hmm. But I think you talked about some of that just there, that maybe that would be one way to test it, the look back, right?
Yeah.
Would the Jill of 5 years ago or 10 years ago feel good about where I'm at right now? Mm-hmm. Or would the Jill of 5 or 10 years ago be like, oh shit, that's not what we talked about. That's not what we were doing. I hear some people say, I'm unsure about a situation, a relationship, a job, a friendship. I think, is that what I would want for my daughter, for my kid, for my sister, for somebody that I care about and feel somewhat protective over? Because sometimes we're way better at being protective of other people than of ourselves, right? I'm glad you talked about that, because I do think that's a good way to kind of discern, where is this discomfort coming from? Mm-hmm. Is something out of alignment, or do I need to just get better at embodying an attitude of gratitude kind of deal?
Right. When I start to feel uncomfortable in a situation, I always just go back to the why. Why am I here? Right? Why am I here in this space? Right? And if why I'm here in this space is because I created it, right, then I need to look at, why did I create it? Did I create this because I wanted it? Did I create this because somebody else told me I wanted it?
Or because I was afraid.
Right. Or I was afraid, or I was shameful, or I was dishonest, and that's how I got to this place. And I think it all goes back to sitting with yourself. And acknowledging that this is uncomfortable, instead of being like, oh, discomfort, let me shoot off to the next thing. Yes. Right? Because it's often like a trigger for us. I'm uncomfortable, let me take care of that right now. And I think that is normal human behavior to do that. We do it when we are uncomfortable in our physical health. We do it when we're uncomfortable in our mental health. We do it when we're uncomfortable in spaces with other people. That fleeing and trying to get away from it in whatever way that we can. So some people do that by physically leaving that space. Yeah. Some people do it by numbing. Some people do it by freezing. So we do it all the time, but I think when we get to these places where these are bigger issues, we finally get the relationship that we thought we wanted, and now we're in it and we're discontent, right? We really have to be willing to sit in that discomfort for a minute and determine what it is.
Yes, you're right.
Because you're never going to get to the place that is in alignment with what you want if you won't sit into the discomfort to really dial into, what is this? Is this me? Is this healing that I need to do in order to be comfortable in this situation, right? Is this situation really what I need and what I want, and I need to adapt to it? Or is this a situation that I don't need to be in, and I need to look and see, where are the red flags? Where are the deal breakers, so that I don't go do it again?
Right. I think it's that slow down response that's so important. And I think many of us, just because, like you said, it's a human response. We live in a very fast-paced world. Yes. We have trauma, right? At this point in our lives, we all have shit we're carrying. We all have things that trigger us. We all have things that flood our brain with cortisol, whether we want them to or not. Feeling that momentary feeling of discomfort, you're like, well, fuck it, I gotta get out of here. Yeah. You know what I mean? I got to do something different. Right. And some of us, especially those of us that have a lot of trauma and that have not worked on healing it, and by some of us, I mean me sometimes, we thrive in that space of panic, destruction, rebuilding, right? All of that crisis. feels really good and really normal. But it's like what you said, we need to slow down so we're not reacting just from the cortisol survival part of our brain. But like you said, we're dialing in, we're going deeper, we're sitting in the discomfort and figuring out where it is coming from so that we actually have some data and information and reflection from which to act, not just pure emotion in brain chemistry.
And when we sit with it ourselves, we create our own stability.
Yes.
And if you are constant, oh, I feel off, I don't like this, I don't feel stable, and you're chasing stability outside of yourself, you are always going to lose.
Yes.
There is no stability outside of you. Every once in a while, you'll bump into someone or something that will be a little bit of an anchor for you for a period of time. But don't fool yourself into believing that that is your anchor. Your anchor is you.
Yes.
And if you don't pour into creating your own anchor, you're always going to be chasing someone else's or something else's, because we all want stability.
Yes.
And when you find it in yourself, then now I'm able to be like, is the grass really greener over there, or am I okay?
Right.
If I don't create it in myself, my grass is never greener.
Correct. No, so true. And I think you have to learn to trust yourself, which is way easier. Easier said than done, and a lifelong journey. In the practice of learning to trust myself some more, one, I do the look back, right? I'm like, Jill, look at these other times where perhaps things did get a little out of control. You found yourself in a place you didn't want to be. You were unhappy. You were upset, whatever. You were able to get yourself out of it. Because I think sometimes there's panic, like, I gotta jump ship now because what if it gets worse later, you know? It's like, okay, I don't know that we need to jump ship right this moment, because you have proven that you jump ship when you need to jump ship. Truly one of the most transformative things I've started doing, which is gonna sound really simple and probably a lot of people have figured this out, but really something I've only done, I would say in the last year or so, I will feel uncomfortable. I'll be like, I don't like this. This feels annoying. I don't want to do this again. I am uncomfortable, right? Yeah. This feels new, and not in a snuggly good new way, like in a weird, prickly, freaky new way. Yeah. And I just tell myself, okay, yes, it does.
Yep.
And your feeling of discomfort, Jill, does not require action today. It doesn't.
No.
You can just feel that and be like, ugh, I don't like it.
Yeah.
But you don't need to do something about it.
Yeah.
And I think for the 34 years of my life before that, every single time I felt something I didn't like for more than a millisecond, I did something. I sabotaged. I burned a bridge. I picked a fight. I numbed. You know what I mean? I did something. And it's just that constant feeling of, this was a bad day. But you don't need to uproot your entire life because it was. This was a bad conversation. You don't need to end the relationship because you had a bad one. And I don't know. I don't know if that's something a lot of people struggle with, if maybe it's more just temperament and personality, but that has been a huge thing for me. Things are never going to be perfect all the time. And if you just continue to react, I think you twist yourself down this road where it gets very hard to even see, how did I get here?
Right. And the perception, right? The perception of what is happening. Being able to sit with that discomfort and then determining your perception of the discomfort, right? So looking at it and saying, this sucks so bad and I hate it and I want this to end as soon as possible. Or do we sit with that discomfort and look at it and say, okay, what am I supposed to figure out from this discomfort? Why am I feeling this way right now? Let me dig into that deeper than I have before. What is this shining a light on for me? And looking at it more as an opportunity to do something differently instead of the opportunity to run away.
Yeah, to ask a question, have a conversation. I think of so many times, especially in the context of relationships, where I would be like, I don't like this. And instead of just like saying to my partner, like, hey, I don't like this. This is making me feel some type of way. Well, scrap the shit. And off we go, you know? And it's like, wow, what an aggressive reaction, right? And we talk about this on here all the time. So much of it is just like, to slow down. Don't be like, this doesn't require action and I'm just going to suppress it and shove it down and not think about it. But this doesn't require action. I should take note of it. Maybe I should even write down how I'm feeling right in this moment. So I remember that, let me log this and take note of it, but I don't have to do something
Right.
right in this moment. But I think we have to talk a little bit in this particular topic about just social media and the perception of other people's lives that we see. Because we are all putting our best foot forward on the socials, right? We are not making TikToks about the days that, you know, we are so depressed we can't get out of bed. We are not making TikToks about the day that we screamed at our kids 15 times. And I think sometimes that it can be very easy to be like, damn, the grass is greener over there. Right. Well, sure it is, because that over there isn't a real fucking place. Yeah. Right?
That's AstroTurf.
That's AstroTurf. Literally. We have to think a little bit about that too, that when we are fantasizing about a place where the grass looks greener, we also need to sit with the fact, is that place real? Yeah. Is that really grass, to your point?
Right. And do we even want that? Do we even want that fake life? Because I also find that when I want something and I'm striving for it, now what I will do more often than not is I like try to sit in the space of what it would be like to have that and make sure that it actually feels good. Sometimes I'm like, oh, that person has that. That looks like a lot of fun. And then I'll sit with it and be like, okay, well, what if I had that? And then I'm like, oh, then I would have to do this, and I would have to take care of this, and I have to buy this insurance over here, and I'd have to worry about that. And if I was worrying about that, I couldn't do this over here that I really like. And then I'm like, nah, I just want to look at their pictures.
Right.
Like, that's fine. I don't need to actually have that, right? Yes. And then sometimes I find that, oh no, that would feel really good and that would fit into my life really well. But if I don't stop and really think about how would that look on my journey, then I'm just following their path in their life that really is not mine.
Right. I'm just taking this hit of serotonin this well-orchestrated video gave me and like wandering right off my path. That's definitely a good practice. I do that a lot too. Like sometimes when I find myself in a grass is greener spiral, I stop and I think, but Jill, is that what you really want? Is that what you really are looking for? Because what would your life look like right there? Right. Because I don't think you would like that. Yeah. So I do think that that's another good practice of you got to figure out, why am I feeling this way? And if the grass does look greener over there, one, is the grass fake? Okay, if it's not, what would that look like in my life? Or what would I look like in that environment? That's a good practice.
And that helps you too while you're watching other people have their successes in their life. Be happy for them without being jealous of I want that. Because when we get clear and we become our own stability and we become our own anchor, we can look at what other people have, and sometimes it's inspiring and other times we're just happy for them for what they have. But I don't want that, but I'm so glad that you want that and you have it. And we stop having this me versus you, us versus them type of mentality, this sense of lack, who has and who doesn't have, right? Sure. Because I have enough. At the end of the day, I have enough for where I am right now in my life, always, right? And will my abundance continue to grow? Yes, it will. But it will grow in the way that my journey needs it to grow, not in the way their journey needs it to grow.
Exactly. You're absolutely right. You know, there's different scenarios we can think of. One that popped in my head when you were talking about that is working from home. So I'm watching TikTok. I like the vlog days where we see somebody's whole day with the timestamps. Right? And I see a lot of people that work from home, right? And I'm like, man, they get up and they do their skincare and do a little workout, and like then they get to get in comfy clothes and they have this beautiful home office set up, drinking lots of water. And I started to think, I want a job where I just have to work from home. That's what I want. But then I think, like you said, I think I've been in spaces where I had to work from home during the COVID-19 pandemic, or because I was sick, or because of the office was under renovation. And I know about myself, after like day 2 or 3 of working from home in a row, I am mean, I am depressed, I am irritable, I am a weird couch creature. I think we have to get better too at that discernment of, this video makes me feel good and like snuggly, but I know that this isn't for me.
And I think that it can continue to make you feel good, but it's like, I feel good for this person who absolutely looks like they're living their best fucking life doing what they're doing. But I don't need it.
I am living my best fucking life. Right. I have found a job that lets me have a nice hybrid work schedule. Yes. And just because it doesn't look like that doesn't mean it's not good.
Right.
And in fact, it's better. Right. For me.
Absolutely. But I do think when we look at other people outwardly and we see people doing different things, if we can be grounded in ourselves, we can use that as inspiration. Yes. Right? We look around and we're like, oh, here are options. right, that other people are doing, clearly are possible. And then we have to be discerning with those options. We have to say, well, does that option, would that fit into my journey? Because I know there are a lot of things in my life that if I wouldn't have seen someone else doing it,
Sure.
it would have never occurred to me that, oh, that's an option in the way that I could run my day, make money, have relationships, those types of things. So I do think looking externally at what other people have is a good thing as long as you're not always chasing their dream. You're actually taking the pieces that resonate with you and saying, I would like to try that out. Not because they're doing it and I'm going to have the exact path that they have, but because that resonates with where I'm at right now and feels like it will work in my life.
Exactly, yeah, because you're taking a moment, like you've said, to sit in it and ask the question, why do I want that? Why is this appealing to me?
Right.
Why am I feeling, I don't even know if it's lack, but why am I feeling like that's something that I feel like needs to be in my life?
Right.
And if the why is something that makes a lot of sense and is congruent with the other things going on,
Right.
then perfect.
Yeah. And I think sometimes people get in a space too. We talk a lot about manifestation, right? So if I want it and I can think about it, I can have it. And that's true. You can have it. Is it in alignment? But we can do all kinds of things that are out of alignment with what we should be doing. I've seen it in people that have done great things. I mean, by all societal look-ins, people would be like, that person is successful. And they get there and they're like, my life sucks.
Yes.
And maybe they chased after someone else's dream and they made it happen because
Right.
they just kept driving, right?
Right.
It doesn't mean that everything that you accomplish is in alignment. Just because you are able to do it doesn't always mean it is what is in alignment for you long term.
And I think that's something that those of us, especially those of us that are like high achievers and that are able to do things, right? And that have good energy and good work ethic and those types of things, just because we can do it doesn't mean we should. And just because an opportunity sounds interesting doesn't mean it's for us. And that also requires, like we've said 9,000 times already, you have to sit and think about it. You know, there have been a couple things that have popped up in our community where it's like, gosh, this feels like a big gap. Gosh, somebody needs to step in here and quote unquote fix it or try to address it. And I know that I could.
Right.
And I know that I'd be good at it. But does it fit with my journey right now?
Right.
And I sat with it and the answer is no.
Yeah. And, just because you go on a path that's not your own, it's out of alignment, you find yourself there. Also want people to make sure that you are recognizing that, there's no good or bad, right? You just took a path that you had to learn some lessons from as you went down it, right?
Right.
And those lessons will hopefully move you toward your path, maybe give you some skills that you needed on your own path.
I believe that you learned those lessons for a reason. Although the path, didn't bring you to a destination or something that looking back, you're like, ugh, that really didn't take me where I wanted to go. I still believe it was probably where you were meant to go because of the reason that you learned those lessons along the way.
I think we all are here and we need to learn certain lessons. Do we always need to learn them in the ways that we did learn them? No, there probably were several different ways you could have learned that lesson. The universe could have provided, because we have free will, we have the ability to do things differently. We are coming in contact with people who also have free will, who impact our journeys along the way. But the lessons will be presented.
Right. You're always going to learn the lesson. But I think if we're doing the things that we're talking about, if we're listening to ourselves, if we're waiting a moment to reflect before we just act, right, out of pure trauma response,
Right.
we are going to learn the lesson in easier ways.
Right.
We're going to get to where we're going faster, where we want to be faster. I actually just had this conversation with someone. We are going to be able to identify toxic people, toxic situations a lot quicker, right? It's not going to take us 6 months of misery to be like, oh, perhaps I should move on, right? Hopefully we'll start to do it in 6 minutes. The lesson is learned, right? On we press, but we're opening ourselves up to new and different and better experiences.
Right.
The last thing I was thinking, or that I want to validate or confirm, I imagine that throughout the course of our lives, the grass will always look greener.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
Because we always want to up level. That's the thing. I think of grass being greener as that means my grass isn't good enough. Right? My grass isn't good enough. That grass is better than the grass that I have. And so when we up level, that's coming from a place of stability. That's coming from a place of I am I'm good enough, and there is more for me. Right? Not I am brown and withered and I need that green grass. But I am stable in who I am. I am my own anchor. And now I'm just going to ascend a little bit into more.
Right. Like my grass is green. That grass also looks nice.
Right.
Perhaps I could integrate some of that grass into my grass. That's so true, because there is this unspoken piece of, if the grass is greener, my grass sucks.
Right.
But your grass can be cool and good and perfect for you.
Right.
And there's also lots of other green grass around you that perhaps you should take a gander at. I like that, because we say that phrase and we don't explicitly say it, but that's what we're saying. And I think if you are in that space where you are grateful for the things that you have, you are thinking about the things that you don't love, you know, but yeah, you can acknowledge my grass is still really good.
Yeah. And cultivate yours. I don't need to go take someone else's. I need to work on mine. So it's enough, but also maybe I would like a flower bed in here. Maybe I would like a tree in here. It's that up leveling of the stability you have created for yourself, instead of being, I am not stable, so I want that grass. My lawn sucks. Let me move house.
Let me abandon this lawn.
Right.
You're right.
Abandon myself. Let me abandon myself to go after somebody else's dream that told me that this is how I fit into their story. No, I am my own story. I have my own grass. I can water it. I am the sun that shines on it. And I can cultivate that any way that I want it to be. I don't have to chase someone else's.
Mic drop. There you go. That's how we should be thinking about it. Take the focus off of the other grass and look at your own.
Yeah.
I love it. You want to pull a card for us?
Sure. All right. We are going to pull from the Intuitive Whispers Oracle deck. So let's all take a deep breath together. And set the intention that we will receive exactly what we need from this card reading and from this podcast today. And that we will look at our own grass as enough. And we will begin to water and shine our light on it, to have exactly what is perfect for our journey. There it is. And you're not going to believe it, but the card is called Gift Yourself.
Aww.
And it's got a little treasure chest that is sitting in what? A garden and grass. So the universe definitely wants you to know that your treasure sits in your grass.
Really? My treasure isn't in somebody else's grass?
No, it's not at all. And so in the book for these oracle cards, it says, we all love receiving gifts, but it can also feel joyful to give a thoughtful gift to someone else, spending time and effort thinking about what they would love. What if you could gift yourself with the same level of thoughtfulness and love? What do you desire in this moment? Here's your chance to give it to yourself, a gesture of self-love, because you're worth it.
I love it. What a perfect card.
So
all right, guys.
Find your treasure chest in your own yard.
Take some time in your own yard this week, guys, and we'll see you next time.
Bye. Thank you for listening to another episode of Guided by Third Wheel, the podcast. We would be honored if you would like, rate, and subscribe on your favorite podcast platform. Until next time, be well.